Why are you so keen that I should involve myself in the internal affairs of Cuba and Libya?
No.
I expect you to be consistent. I don't know if I have paralyzed you.
No.
One of the mistakes which some political analysts make is to think that their enemies should be our enemies.
Hello fam, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for this video right here because I think there's a lot to learn, and frankly not a lot has changed. I am so surprised to find this out. But before I start talking, before we discuss and have a dialogue, because we are going to have that, I want you to watch a clip.
Somewhat disappointed by the models of human rights that you have held up since being released in jail. You've met over the last 6 months 3 times with Yasser Arafat, who you have praised. You have told Gaddafi that you share the view on, and applaud him on his record of human rights and his drive for freedom and peace around the world. And you have praised Fidel Castro as a leader of human rights and said that Cuba was one of the countries that's head and shoulders above all other countries in human rights, despite the fact that documents at the United Nations and elsewhere show that Cuba is one of the worst. I was just wondering, are these your models of leaders of human rights? And if so, would you want a Gaddafi or an Arafat or a Castro to be a future president of South Africa?
One of the mistakes which some political analysts make is to think that their enemies should be our enemies. That we can and we will never do. We have our own struggle which we are conducting. We are grateful to the world for supporting our struggle. But nevertheless, we are an independent organization with its own policy. And the attitude of every country towards, our attitude towards any country is determined by the attitude of that country to our struggle. Yasser Arafat, Colonel Gaddafi, Fidel Castro support our struggle to the hilt. There is no reason whatsoever why we should have any hesitation about hailing their commitment to human rights as they are being demanded in South Africa. Our attitude is based solely on the fact that they fully support the anti-apartheid struggle. They do not support it only in rhetoric. They are placing resources at our disposal for us to win the struggle. That is the position.
First of all, I want to address how Mandela addresses people and how he responds by just being calm and collected and still hit the target. I love that about him. So the first clip I showed you is about him talking about how US wants Africans to, be on their side. Whenever they have enemies, we have to consider that country as an enemy as well. And it does not work like that. Like, how do you assume that your enemy should be my enemy as well when that person or that country didn't do anything to me? Like, I loved how he touched on that, and it's still the same. It's still going on. They're still bullying us to be, against Russia or to support Ukraine. We have talked about that on this channel. So it's really interesting. What was going on 10, 20 years ago is still going on in current days, and they're still trying to twist our arms. And I think it's about time we start saying no, thank you. Now let's go to the second clip.
We are not concerned with models. We are not concerned with labels. We are practical men and women whose solutions are dictated by the actual conditions existing in our country. As somebody has said, we do not care whether the cat is black or white, as long as it can catch mice.
If I may...
What we want to achieve is a healthy and vibrant economy which can ensure full employment to our people, maximum production, and the development of social justice. We wanted to rectify the imbalances that exist in our economy. One of the companies, well-known companies in the country, one company owns more than 75% of the shares quoted in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. This is illustrative of how our economy is organized. It is more, the resources of the country are monopolized by a white minority, even in that minority by a few individuals, whereas the masses of the people, especially blacks, are left poor, ridden with disease, illiteracy, without educational facilities. We wanted to develop an economy which will put an end to that and will leave to other people to put a label if they so wish.
The players might change, the leaders might change, the ministers might change. The game stays the same. They play the same game over and over and over again, and I think it's about time we wake up. So in this clip that I just showed you, they are asking him to define what system South Africa uses. Are you a Marxist? Are you, a capitalist? And he's like, we care about growing our economy. For us, it doesn't matter if the cat is black or white. We want to move forward. It's not about labeling it. If you want to label it, go ahead, label it. But for us, that's not our priority. And this is still what we're going through right now. They want to push what they believe to be right and wrong to be what we believe in. And it doesn't work like that. What works in the US might not work in South Africa. What works in Germany might not work in Nigeria. So I don't think they take into consideration what our background, what our society culture is like. So whatever they think is right and best, we should follow it. Like they're, the adults in this situation and we're the children that don't have a say and we just say, yes, master. Like that's what they like to do, right? And, as I said, it's time to stand up and say no more. We have our own resources. We have our own people. We have our own minds. We are blessed with the land that God has given us. So we can do this thing. Trust us. Leave it to us. Stop meddling in our politics and our business. That's what I have to say about that. And next, I want to show you a third clip, and then stay tuned because there is going to be a bonus clip.
For anybody who changes his principles depending on whom he is dealing, that is not a man who can lead a nation. apparently, Mr. Coppel, you have not listened to my argument. If you have done so, then you have not been serious in examining it. I have replied to one of our friends here that I have refused to be drawn into the differences that exist between various communities inside the USA. You have not commented that I am going to offend anybody by refusing to involve myself in the internal affairs of the USA, of the USA. Why are you so keen that I should involve myself in the internal affairs of Cuba and Libya?
No.
I expect you to be consistent. I don't know if I have paralyzed you.
No.
That was my favorite part. Like, the interviewer didn't even know how to come back from that because he caught him by surprise. He didn't expect him to answer him like that. Because, you know, if you watch the whole interview, they've been talking about what is going on even in the US. And Mandela said, US, that's your internal affairs. I will not be meddling in your internal affairs. But they didn't have any problem about that. But when they talked about Yasser Arafat and Gaddafi, they were like, why don't you care? Why don't you meddle in? And he's like, how come you didn't ask me, why aren't you meddling in the US? When I gave you an answer, I'm not going to be involved in your internal affairs. You were like, okay, cool. Like, no problem. But when I say I don't meddle in other countries' internal affairs, you got offended. You're like, but Mandela, wait, you have to answer us. You have to give us an answer. You have to be on one side or the other. So I loved how he caught him by surprise and he was like, what do I say? Because he knows he messed up. He knows there's a double standard there and they only want us to involve in internal affairs of African countries or those countries that they don't like. But when it comes to US internal affairs, I mean, is that even our business? No. Why? Because there's double standards. They don't see themselves as equals to the rest of the world. Somehow they have a high moral compass. They are high up in the hierarchy and they just want to look down on us, the rest of the world, the peasants. Well, it's not going to work anymore because we are awake. My brothers and sisters, we are no longer going to accept this nonsense, this double standards, this racism from them anymore because it's not serving us. Us being respectful to people that are not respecting us or are not giving us the same level of understanding. How does this continue? The only way forward is to say no and have boundaries. Right? So with that being said, I want to bring to you the bonus clip I have promised you.
Both Bush as well as Tony Blair are undermining an idea which was sponsored by their predecessors. They do not care. Is it because the Secretary General of the United Nations is now a black man? They never did that when Secretary Generals were white. What is the lesson of them acting outside the United Nations? Are they saying any country which believes that they will not be able to get the support of the countries with a veto are entitled to go outside the United Nations and to ignore it? Or are they saying, we, the United Nations, are the only superpower in the world now. We can act as we like. Are they saying this is a lesson that we should follow? Or are they saying, we are special. What we do should not be done by anybody. And if there is a country that has committed unspeakable atrocities in the world, it is the United States of America. They don't care. They don't care for human beings. 57 years ago, when Japan was retreating on all fronts, they decided to drop the atom bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Killed a lot of innocent people who are still suffering from the effects of those bombs. Those bombs were not aimed against the Japanese. They were aimed against the Soviet Union to say, look, this is the power that we have. If you dare oppose what we do, this is what is going to happen to you. Because they are so arrogant, they decided to kill innocent people in Japan who are still suffering from that. Who are they now to pretend that they are the policemen of the world? What I'm condemning is that one power with a president who has no foresight, who cannot think properly, is now wanting to plunge the world into a holocaust. And I'm happy that the people of the world, especially those of the United States of America, are standing up and opposing their own president. I hope that that opposition will one day make him understand that he has made the greatest mistake of his life in trying to bring about carnage and to police the world without any authority from the international body. It is something we have to condemn without reservation.
Well, there you have it. He called out the racism. He called them out back in the days when George Bush and Tony Blair were the leaders. They were going behind doing some messy stuff and nobody held them accountable. But now, if any African country did that, you better believe we would have been paying for it now. But as you all know, double standards. Anyways, fam, let me know down below what your thoughts are about these clips that I've showed you. What was your biggest takeaway? And what do you think the youth of Africa should do going forward? What is the first step? Now that we've seen it's been happening again and again and again and again, I'm sure it's going to continue. So what can we do to make things different for ourselves and the next generation to come? I'll see you on the next one, fam. Stay blessed. Bye.